Mixed earnings from the big Wall Street banks on Thursday, with Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo all posting sharp declines in quarterly profit amid a slump in deal-making globally. The results come a day after the largest U.S. bank by assets, J.P. Morgan Chase, reported a steep drop in profit as geopolitical risks and decades-high inflation stalled deals. Morgan Stanley fared the best, reporting a smaller-than-expected 11% drop in first-quarter profit on Thursday, as it outperformed rival Goldman Sachs in M&A advisory. Goldman posted a 43% drop in profit, but still beat Wall Street expectations, as market volatility fueled by concerns around interest rate hikes helped Goldman's trading desks. Citigroup, the most global of the U.S. banks, posted a 46% plunge in quarterly profit, as it took hits from direct exposures in Russia. And finally, Wells Fargo reported a 21% drop in quarterly profit, but like the other banks, beat lowered expectations. Shares of Wells Fargo fell as much as 7% in early trading, but the stock had recovered somewhat by mid-morning. Shares of Morgan Stanley and Citi rose after their results, while Goldman shares were trading flat, and shares of Bank of America, which is scheduled to report earnings on Monday, fell more than 1%.
Severe outbreaks of bird flu in the United States and France are tightening global egg supplies and raising prices, leaving some consumers scrambling to find the household staple as Easter weekend approaches. Bird flu has wiped out more than 19 million egg-laying chickens on commercial U.S. farms this year, in the worst outbreak since 2015, according to Reuters calculations of federal and state data. France, too, is suffering its worst outbreak ever, in which about 8% of egg-laying hens have been culled. Higher prices are particularly painful around the Easter and Passover holidays, when demand jumps as families use eggs to bake and dye Easter eggs. Prices are expected to stay elevated, egg producers said, as it will take months to resume operations on infected farms. Iowa, the top U.S. egg-producing state, has suffered badly, with an executive at the second-largest egg producer there telling Reuters the whole industry is in a general panic. Wholesale prices for large eggs in the U.S. Midwest are up nearly 200% from a year earlier, according to one data firm. As a result, consumers could see higher prices for food products made with eggs, such as mayonnaise. In addition to bird flu, the war in Ukraine is disrupting supply chains for egg buyers in the Middle East who rely on imports from Ukraine, now the EU's top egg producer. Many Middle Eastern importers are now turning to other European countries like Turkey as a potential source for eggs.
Russia warned on Thursday that if Sweden and Finland join NATO, Russia would deploy nuclear weapons and hypersonic missiles in an exclave in the heart of Europe. Both Finland, which shares an 810-mile border with Russia, and Sweden are considering joining the US-led military alliance. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, said that should Sweden and Finland join NATO, then Russia would have to strengthen its land, naval and air forces in the Baltic Sea, where Russia has its Kaliningrad exclave sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania. Medvedev also said he hoped Finland and Sweden would see sense, or they'd have to live with nuclear weapons and hypersonic missiles close to home. There could be no more talk of a nuclear-free Baltic, he said. One town on Finland's border with Russia is Imatra, home to 26,000 people casting a nervous eye towards their eastern neighbour. It used to welcome Russian tourists, but since Moscow launched what it calls a special military operation in Ukraine, Imatra fears receiving less benign arrivals. That worry has prompted Finland to consider joining NATO, which would be a major pivot in its security arrangements. Katri Lat is a resident of Imatra.
We have so far seen Imatra as a very safe place, and we still think so. But I believe the thoughts of the people here have now changed, in the way that a small fear has now appeared. And Russia, the country next to us, is a little different to other countries, and you cannot necessarily always trust what they say. So maybe people should be prepared for the fact that we might have to leave quickly.
Finland has long avoided disagreements with Russia for the sake of friendly relations. But Prime Minister Sanna Marin said on Wednesday it must be ready for all kinds of responses from Moscow now it's weighing NATO membership. She said a decision would be made in the coming weeks.
U.S. stocks closed lower on Thursday, with all three major indexes posting weekly losses ahead of the Good Friday holiday as bond yields resumed their uphill climb. The Dow lost 0.33%, the S&P 500 fell more than 1%, and the Nasdaq ended more than 2% lower. Rebecca Felton is Senior Portfolio Manager at Riverfront Investment Group.
The longer rates going up are a signal that investors are worried about inflation continuing and the implications that that has for growth. We believe now that the Fed is on track to raise rates maybe at least six more times this year, and that has some concerns as to whether or not that will impact growth.
Rising 10-year Treasury yields pressured growth stocks such as Apple, which lost 3% or the equivalent of $83 billion. Shares of Tesla lost more than 3.5% as the company's CEO Elon Musk revealed an offer to take Twitter private for $41 billion in cash. The social media company's shares oscillated throughout the session but closed in negative territory. Investors also had earnings from a quartet of large U.S. banks to contend with on Thursday. Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo all beat Wall Street estimates but reported steep declines in profit. Their share price reaction was mixed, while the broader S&P Finance Index closed lower.
Britain could send tens of thousands of asylum seekers to Rwanda under a new partnership signed by the two countries on Thursday. The policy is aimed at tackling spiralling illegal immigration into the UK, where last year more than 28,000 people crossed from mainland Europe, many with the help of organised crime gangs. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the resettlement plan will apply to anyone who has arrived illegally since January the 1st.
This innovative approach, driven by our shared humanitarian impulse and made possible by Brexit freedoms, will provide safe and legal routes for asylum while disrupting the business model of the gangs.
Britain's Home Secretary Priti Patel was in Kigali to sign the deal, which will see the UK initially contribute just under $160 million. She said it was a substantial investment in Rwanda's economic development. Rwanda's Foreign Minister Vincent Biruta said migrants would be given education and employment opportunities, and the chance to make new lives as full members of our communities.
And for those who don't wish to make Rwanda their new home, they will be facilitated to return to their country of origin or settle in other receiving countries.
The scheme drew swift and strong criticism from opposition politicians in the UK, with one calling it extortionate as well as unworkable and unethical. Johnson said he knew the plan would be criticised and face legal challenges, but he promised to do whatever it took to deliver it.